Hey guys, Brian here. As you can see, I am coming to you from Grauman Chinese Theater, the Forecourt of Grauman Chinese Theater specifically. You can also see that there's nobody around. So here's the dealio. I wanted to do some stuff that I've never had a chance to do because there's so many people. Look, it's the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday in July, and there's me and 3 other people right now here. So you don't get to do this. Again, I said this time and again, if you're a local, get down here, be a tourist where you live, because this is your chance to see it the way that you never had, to see it, in other words. So that's really cool. So what it was I'd done a video about this the other day, and it's $5 to get in. Now it says donation, but you can't get in without using a credit card. You can't even pay cash. It's a $5 credit card donation, and then you get to walk around in here, which is good. You know, if it's to help save this thing, that's fine. I got no problem with that. I just think it's kind of weird. And here's one of the reasons why I think it's interesting, although you can never predict a freaking pandemic, for God's sake. But back in 1953, I think it was, maybe 55, Hedda Hopper wrote an article, and one of the things she wrote in her piece for like the Examiner, I think it was that every city has these places that you have to visit, and Paris has the Eiffel Tower, and New York City has the top of the Empire State Building. In Hollywood, all those places cost you to go see. In Hollywood, this is free. Any time of day or night, you'll see people walking around here. Well, they couldn't predict the pandemic happening, and so now that's not the case. But I just think I ran across that piece today. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the specific pieces here. One of the things I want you to notice here, because the way the light's hitting it, you can actually see it better. You can tell the original ones done by Mr. Klausner, because they're different colors and they're different sizes. And the original man, Mr. Jean Klausner, they were all different colors and different sizes. This is his family, the guy that created this. It was a secret family recipe, and his family was involved in like building the Notre Dame Cathedral and stuff like that. I've been in the business for like freaking years. And he had the secret recipe. When he died, he took the recipe with him. So nowadays you'll see some of these that are newer. Some of them are cracked because they really are generally older, and the subway coming through. But some of the new ones don't seem to fare as well. So I want to point out some of these to you as we come along, as we're going to be walking along here. So I'm going to flip this thing around. Give me 1 second here. So let's start right here with the lovely Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn and Jane Russell. This is for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, 1953. You can see, actually, if you see that right there, the cameraman would have been sitting right about there, taking the photograph this way, looking in. Marilyn, by the way, Marilyn and Shirley Temple have got the dirtiest handprints in the whole place, because so many people put their handprints in them. So, you know, bring a lot of, I mean, you thought COVID was bad, holy crap. That's kind of interesting. A personal favorite of mine, there's this one, Jimmy Stewart. Now, Jimmy Stewart did his on Friday the 13th, and he did it underneath an open ladder with a black cat, and from what I understand, also a broken mirror with him. But he did it just because, you know, jinx-wise or whatever, he wanted to just put that on it, cut the kibosh on that kind of a thing. This is Raoul Walsh. We'll talk about him in a second when we get over to the other side here. This was director Raoul Walsh. He directed John Wayne. That's Raoul Walsh's fist right there. That's his fist right there. You've got some, now these are all the older ones, so they're all the different sizes here, different shapes, different colors, things like that. Then you get into some of the newer ones where they started putting this ring around it. They could move them if they needed to, things like that. And they're all basically a standard size. And then they began running out of more space. So now they're kind of basically a set size here. They're all basically about this size, roughly about this is what the size they are now. Kevin Costner, and they can move them if they need to, but they're all now, when they run out of this size, I don't know, maybe they'll hang them on the damn walls. Who the heck knows what's going to happen to them? I don't know. I came by here one day, it was about 10 years ago, and it was early in the morning. There was a camera crew here, and I got here and just in time to see, but I got to see briefly Sophia Loren standing here doing her footprints again. There was a photograph that were taken of her. That was one of those, this is before I had cameras kind of stuff, and that made me say, I'll never do that again. Here you got the whole Harry Potter gang. Twilight. Oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So this is Michael Jackson. Now in 2012, they did this for Michael Jackson. What they did was Michael Jackson's kids, they brought Michael Jackson's sequins glove and his shoes. These are his kids' handprints. And then they wrote this for Michael Jackson. They did this on 26th of January 2012. Then about, I don't know, like 6 months later, in a basement in Vegas, they found this. Michael done this back in June of 1989, and that's his own handprint and his signature and his footprints. So they brought it here, so they have them both together now, which is kind of cool. Now, here's the first ones. These are the first official ones. Let's just say, put it that way. These are the first official footprints here. The thing about the footprints is this. Sid Grauman himself, there's a lot of, well, here he is right here. So Sid had a number of theaters. It began with going gold digging up in the Yukon with his father and stuff like that. But had a number of theaters. He created the $1 Million Theater, which only cost $800,000 downtown. He had the Egyptian Theater, and then he had this thing here. Now, that's his hand and footprints right there. This is the guy that did this, okay? So the question always comes, and if you're a tour guide like me, it's a standard question. Brian, how did this start? Where did these come from? Why are there these handprints and footprints of all these people? Well, there's about a dozen different stories. Sid Grauman told about 6 different stories about why these things exist. Now, the reason that most people accept, let me put it that way, is that either Norma Talmadge or Mary Pickford, depends which book you read, were at the site here while they were building, stepped in some wet cement, and oh my gosh, Sid had this idea, oh, I can do this, and then he calls up Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford, whichever way it went, and they started doing ceremonies. Okay, from that point on. Now that's one of the stories. Another story goes, Mary Pickford was talking to Sid Grauman on the phone, and she said she had just come home from shopping, and her dog Zorro had run across some pressed concrete in the driveway, and the guy got mad, but she thought how neat that was, because then she'd have her dog's footprints there for all of eternity right there, and that gave Sid the idea, and he said, come down here, you and Doug can. That's another story. There's different, accidental, not accidental, on purpose. Somebody accidentally stepped in something. Somebody, Klausner, Jean Klausner, he would sign his own work. And they said that Sid watched him do that, and it got them the idea, hey, I can do that with people here, stuff like that. So that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of different stories about why there are handprints here. You can pick one, and most of them are valid. I mean, so I'm not gonna say one way or the other. This is Betty Grable's leg print. You see her leg? Oh, there we go, right here. That's her leg. That's her foot going back this way here. That's Betty Grable. Now, so you can see this is all blocked off now because these people aren't paying money. So there's that. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Now, not too long ago, I did a thing for, this is a number of months ago, I did a thing for an Australian, some journalists. And we were here walking around here. And one of the journalists, he asked me a question. And he says, like, you see people trying this stuff and you've been doing this for years. Do you have a favorite? Well, as a matter of fact, I do have a personal favorite. And my personal favorite, now here's Roy Rogers and Trigger, by the way, which is kind of cool. I think it's kind of neat. But this is my favorite right here, right below me here. This is Charles Nelson. Now, not Charles Nelson Riley, but Charles Nelson. Talent Quest winner in 1949. Now, Charles Nelson was a guy who was in high school in Salina, Kansas. And he enters because he needed $150 and enters a local talent competition. And as part of the local talent competition, and he wins, he gets to go to the Nationals, which he wins, comes here and wins. And first prize is a movie, what do you call it? A test, movie test. and your handprints at Grauman Chinese Theater. Now, in all honesty, he didn't do a whole lot after this, although Merv Griffin got sick when Merv was running like the Ziegfeld Follies in Vegas, and this guy's a baritone, and this guy came and took over and met everybody, witnessed all kinds of things like fights between Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin and shit like that. I mean, really hung out with the best, you know, hung out with, played cards with Sinatra. And this is a kid, a guy like going from high school in his 20s and his 30s and stuff like that. But his name is Charles Nelson, and he won Talent Quest, which at the time was essentially America's version at that time of what would have been like America's Got Talent, that kind of a thing. By the way, this was a double ceremony. He did this the same time that Richard Widmark did his right here. It was all on the same day. Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. So now they're this big. Now, like I said, now they're doing to a basic size here. So what they do is they have a ceremony in the center, and people sit here and watch and all that kind of crap. And then they let it dry. They let it dry somewhere else, and they bring them and they put them in here. So they're all basically this size. This is a big one, though. This is the whole gang here. If you ever see my pictures, by the way, I try and hide right up along in here. And that's how I take my pictures down this way. So that's how I get the shots that I get when I can do that. I'm working on getting something different camera-wise. All this is iPhone stuff. Different people do different things. You might have remembered the photographs I took of Mel Brooks. It wasn't until I got home that I realized that Mel Brooks had 6 fingers on one hand. I didn't find out that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Never really realized that about Mel Brooks, but it's kind of fascinating. You just don't think about stuff like that, but I like that. Whoopie Goldberg cut her hair out, pressed her hair into the cement here. Meryl Streep has easily got the thinnest feet, other than Sonja Hende's ice skates. Yeah, right here. Oh, so here's the John Wayne thing. So when John Wayne did this, he put his fist in there because Raoul Walsh was his first director, and he liked Raoul Walsh a lot. So he did this in honor of Raoul Walsh when he did this. Quentin Tarantino had shoes made. So Quentin Tarantino had a certain pair of shoes made when he did this. You might notice it says "fuck you" on the bottom of both of his shoes there. I always thought that was kind of cute. If you remember the episode of I Love Lucy, like I said before, I may have mentioned this before, I changed things going on here, but there you can see this is his John Wayne's footprints are there, and this, so they made a replica of this when they stole them at the thing there. These two the Heaven's Dragon dogs, these are replicas of originals. Now the originals were done back in like 321 BC, for God's sake, and these were done by the Ming Dynasty, so these are old too. They had to go through special permits and stuff like that to get this stuff to allow it all to be here. And they had to go through all this kind of different stuff here to have this. But those are Ming Dynasty Heaven's dogs. Anyway, I wanted to give you guys an idea as to what's going on here, what it's like, what it is missing, you guys. And to see this, as I said, you don't get to see this very often. And come down, and if you're local, come down here and check it out. If you like this, if you like other things that I do me a favor, subscribe to my page, tell your friends, and I'll be coming to you with some more stuff. But coming to you from the Forecourt to the... Oh! One more thing. Okay, so here's the deal. So, George Clooney, when they did this, George Clooney likes playing practical jokes, apparently. And he apparently tells Matt Damon, we're all going to wear bigger shoes than what we normally wear to this event. And nobody did but Matt Damon. So he wore actually bigger size shoes than what he normally would wear for this thing, apparently. So they look like something like clown feet or something like that. But apparently it was a practical joke that he did on him. So I thought that was kind of funny. So coming to you live from here, Grauman Chinese Theater. You guys enjoy. Have fun, and I'll talk to you all later. Wear a mask and wash your hands. Bye.